All right, welcome back to the videos, everyone. Today I'm going to be going over 4 things that you guys should be doing while you're at the racetrack to make more efficient use of your time that you have while you're there. Because the one thing that makes you a better driver is seat time, but that's limited. You can only get so much of it. So the key is to making more efficient use of that time that you're getting. So if you're trying to become a better driver, stick around and hopefully some of these tips will help you. Hello. All right, well, I just spent like probably 20 minutes driving around, talking to the camera and everything, and got pulled over just for my audio to sound like this.
Driver, that shouldn't even be step number 1. It should just be like a given. Like, that is like the foundation.
So we're gonna be doing the rest of this video with me just chilling in my garage talking to you guys. So in this video, I'm already making the assumption that you are already getting to the racetrack as much as possible. If that's not already like your first priority and you're trying to become a better driver, you need to be doing that. None of these tips are going to help you if you're not like actively, regularly getting to the track. The single biggest and most important thing is just seat time. You need more seat time. Now, with that being said, this is how you can maximize and make that time more efficient. So, step 1, the first thing that you want to do is get yourself some kind of a GoPro or action camera setup. I normally have my GoPro set up on my quarter window facing forward. You can put one at the top of your windshield. You can get one of those 360 action cameras that like it mounts on your trunk and it just gives you like a view of everything. And then what I also do is I have, as you guys have seen, I'll have a camera on the suspension so I can kind of see what the car is doing. But having some kind of external camera view is going to be beneficial if you guys can kind of go back and look at your driving and pull something out of it. Or if you have a friend who can film you and whatnot, that'll be helpful to be able to maybe see what it is that you're doing wrong or where you can improve or stuff like that. And then something that the pros use is what's called a RaceLogic V-Box, and you can pick them up on eBay for like $400 to $500. I've never personally used one, but all the pros use them. It GPS records your speed, your brake and throttle inputs, all that good stuff. I don't know exactly how they work, how they set them up, but it basically removes any chance of delusion of you thinking you were on the brakes by X point, and like it tells you everything that you're doing at all times, and it is the tell-all, and it helps you kind of see what you're doing and what you could be doing better and all that. The only thing with GoPros, you can record yourself all day long. But unless you like really know what you're looking for, it's not always easy to just look at a video and be like, oh, clearly I'm not doing this, and this. Some things you got to also know like what was going on while you're driving. You kind of have to know what you're looking for. And that leads me into tip number 2, which is have an instructor or somebody ride along with you when you're at the track. Now it's easier to come across this when you're at an autocross event, which is why why I really support autocross events. I'm a big advocate for them, but it's really hard to tell what you're doing wrong if you like don't even know what you're looking for, especially when you're starting out. Having someone riding along with you will help you break any bad habits. It'll help you kind of see what's going on and help you. They'll be able to help you improve. Even if they're not more experienced than you, having someone ride along in the car and like telling them like, hey, see if you can find anything that I'm doing wrong or anything I can improve on. I had, when I was on autocross week, I had some guy who was not an instructor. He was just a really experienced dude. He rode with me. I took his advice that he gave me, and I chopped 2 seconds off of my 100-second lap. That's huge. That's a lot of time. Personally, I don't like it when personally, I don't like it when instructors ride with me. I like giving ride-alongs, but I just don't love it when they ride with me. But it's something you got to do. You got to get used to it. You got to accept it. I try at every event to at least have someone ride with me at least one lap to kind of give me a breakdown of what I could be doing better. So yeah, try that out if you haven't already tried it. you know, that's this is probably the most important tip on this whole list. Tip number 3 is don't buy a car that has like very unusual handling quirks and is the type of car where you're going to be like fighting it at the track and you're going to be like struggling more with overcoming the car than you are like your own driving. First cars that comes to mind would be like some kind of like a pickup truck or like any kind of pickup truck. I cannot imagine it's not going to handle good. You're going to spend more time trying to like fight the truck and whatnot, and it's just not going to work. It's not going to be easy to make handle. You want a car where it's easy to make it handle really good, but also just where the car does exactly what you want it to do. One example of a car that comes to mind is the ND Miata. Now, you might think, oh, it's a Miata, it handles great, and I'm sure it does, but one of the things I've noticed in my years of doing autocross that they have a tendency to do is when you're in a slalom and you're, going back and forth through the corners, the rear end kind of like keeps loading up as you're going through the corner, and it loads up more and more. And eventually the back end gives out and it doesn't just like spin out, like the car will basically throw itself off the track. They like just all of a sudden start flying sideways. And I've seen one slide a very, very long distance before into a cement wall. I'm sure they handle good, but they have this weird quirk. And I don't know if it's the stock springs. I don't know. I've never driven one. I've just seen a lot of them do it. And it might be a good car to teach you driving elsewise, but it's something I've noticed, and it's a good example of like if you're constantly having to drive around this one quirk, it might teach you some bad habits, and you're not going to be able to just focus on your driving getting better. Find something that's simple. You can do simple bolt-ons, and you can just go drive it. It's not like this horrible mess to drive. Tip number 4, which when you're just out on the track trying to get seat time, try and keep your car as simple as possible. Don't mess around with the suspension and everything too much, and don't add like a ton of adjustability. Yes, it might make the car faster, but when you're out there, you're going to spend not only are you going to spend more time just trying to like set the car up better, and it's going to be taken away from your driving, but every time you make an adjustment, you're going to have to like relearn the car, and you're not going to be getting better as a driver. You're just going to like constantly be relearning the car, and that's not going to help you. The car I'm in right now is not particularly fast, but I have figured out how to be very quick in it because I don't change the setup. There's a lot of things I would change if I had the money to do so and the time, but I've had the exact same setup since the beginning of this season, and the only things I've changed since the last season was the tires, and I've added 2 degrees of camber all the way around. The tube front end made it handle better, but it didn't really like change the way it handled. It just handled a little bit stiffer. I do have adjustable camber arms in this thing, but I don't ever adjust them. I had an alignment done. I got 2 degrees of camber and I called it a day. Not even my coilovers are adjustable. They're Coney Orange Street Shocks. And so the only thing I adjust when I'm at events is my tire pressure. And I will tell you, when I'm at events, if my tire pressure is not dialed, it messes big time with the handling. So imagine if you show up to an event and your tire pressure is out of whack, your camber's out of whack, your coilovers are not adjusted properly, and the list goes on and on. You're going to waste more time trying to get your setup dialed in than you are going to be actually driving. For me, whenever I show up to an event, once I get my tire pressure set up, I'm dialed. Like, there's nothing else to do. If the car does something horrendous, or, I am slow or make a horrible error, it's on me. I know for a fact it's not on the car because nothing changes. I have learned this chassis very well. I've learned this setup very well. There are a ton of things I would change about this car. It is way too soft. Now that creates a lot of grip, but it's too soft. There's way too much bushing deflection. It's on stock bushings on most of the bushings. It's horribly slow. Like there's so much I would change, but I've learned it, and it hasn't created any bad habits. It's just I've learned the chassis really well. So now when I'm out there, I can focus on my line, focus on my braking zones, focus on where my throttle inputs are, focus on my rotation, all that stuff. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about what's the car going to do next? Well, what's it going to do here? What's it going to do here? One of the things I'm still working on is like getting making sure I'm do all of my braking before the corner, because as you guys seen, I slide this thing around a lot because I wait too far in the braking zones because I'm trying to push the car harder, and then the car just gets thrown sideways. But nevertheless, if you're trying to if you race in competition a lot and you're trying to be faster and you want the car to be faster, then obviously you're going to want to add a lot to the setup, and you're going to want to add a lot of adjustability and whatnot. If you're trying to make the car faster, you need all that adjustability. However, if you're still a newbie and you're trying to get better, don't worry about your setup. Keep something simple. You probably do want some type of adjustability in your coilovers, but don't mess with it 50 times an event. Get a system that works, and just kind of get a system down so when you show up to an event, you're ready and you're not just sitting there messing with everything. Yes, eventually you are going to have to learn how to set up a race car and figure out what works. But if you're focused on getting better as a driver, even if you're, more of an intermediate driver, like, wait on that stuff and just focus right now on having a simple setup and just getting out there and driving. And anything that deducts from you just focusing on your own inputs, if your mind is anywhere else while you're on track, you need to adjust that. Because for me in this car, whenever I'm out on track, that's all I'm thinking about is what inputs do I need to be doing at each time. And if I screw up on that, it reflects in my lap times and the way the car handles. And I know whenever I put down a poor lap time, it's on me, and I have no excuses. There's no wondering like, well, was it me or was it the setup? No, it was me. It's pretty clear, and I know. And then that allows me to be like, okay, well, what did I do to make that mistake? And then I can learn from that. So that's my takeaway. And I will round out this video with giving one more piece of advice, since I was talking about competition and seat time. If you get to the point where you have a competition car and a seat time car or a street car, one thing I learned from Matt Field is it's a smart idea to have your seat time / demo / street car and your competition car the same car, for multiple reasons. Number one, when your race car gets new race car parts, the old parts that you take off can get hammered down to the street car. Also, you now have effectively a parts car, so if you want to take one of the cars somewhere and you all of a sudden need a part, you have another car that shares the exact same parts. Also, in the name of keeping things simple, when you're out there driving, you're not having to completely relearn different chassis. You're just having to relearn different setups. So once again, it's something that just simplifies the process. And so anything that you learn in your seat time car or street car can translate to your race car and vice versa. So it just kind of streamlines the process and makes things easier. And also, when you get a new chassis and you're kind of like learning things about it and learning its nuances, you already have another car, and so everything you learn on the one car, it also applies to your other car, and it just makes life more simple. So if you're looking for a car, one thing you can do to think ahead is is this a car that is going to make a good street car and a good race car? So something like a Mustang or a BRZ falls into that category, or Corvette. There's a million cars that fall into that category, but you get what I'm saying. You got to think ahead about, is this going to apply well to something where, is this going to be a good car where I can have it, on multiple platforms and like that. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any input or advice or any takeaways, let me know in the comments. If you guys want more videos like this, let me know in the comments. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good night.
Why you sleeping on the presence? I'm a present bitch, I'm gifted. You should listen when I'm spitting, over tripping. I've been floating, token lotus when I'm smoking. Get the mention, never missing. Ain't no time for intermission. In the mission, what I'm missing is a fixing on a fixing. I gotta keep it cool because I know the clock is ticking. The pros and cons of living life so different. Just producing contradictions. What I'm mixing, hitting different. It's fucking on my vision, weed and liquor.